Hi, I'm Nolan Hayes. I'm 25, scraping by in a cramped apartment on the edge of Seattle, Washington. Freelance developer mostly, patching code for startups too broke for full teams. It's no dream gig, but it pays the bills, keeps the rent covered, the fridge stocked, and me in sweatpants, tapping away from home most days. Life's pretty straightforward. Code. Coffee. Maybe a run at dusk if I'm feeling it. No big circle of friends, just a couple tight ones like Wyatt. He's been my best bud since high school. The guy who cracks you up even on your worst day. Wyatt's mom Elise, that's a whole other story. She's 43, runs admin for a logistics firm downtown. Known her forever, but always from a distance. She's not your cookie-cutter mom type, no frumpy sweaters or neighborhood bake sales. Elise has this quiet steel about her. Honed, confident, like she's weathered storms and come out tougher. Ex-army nurse. Explains the vibe like nothing rattles her anymore. I've always kept my distance. Not 'cause she's intimidating, but because she's Wyatt's mom. That's a line you don't cross, right? Wyatt talked me into this camping trip his mom's company put together. A 2-day hike in the Cascades not too far from the city. Easy stroll, he said, tossing me a spare pack. Mom's going too. You in? I wasn't thrilled. Deadlines were piling up on client projects, but I hadn't left Seattle in months. Fresh air beat another Netflix binge. So I packed my bag, tossed in some energy bars, and met them at the trailhead that Saturday morning. The group was small, maybe 10 folks, mostly Elise's coworkers. Office types in their 40s, decked out in shiny new gear. Wyatt and I were the young guns, feeling a bit out of place. Elise led the pack, steady pace, no fuss. Tight jacket, cargo pants, hair pulled back in a firm ponytail. I caught myself watching her steps, smooth, efficient, no stiffness or show. She'd pause to point out a trail marker or check someone's water, like she was still in nurse mode, making sure no one crashed. We rode up in 2 vans, winding through hilly evergreens until we hit base camp, a clearing with a fire pit and views of snow-capped peaks. Air was crisp, thick with pine and dirt. Plan was simple: set up tents, hike a few miles to a viewpoint, back for chow. Trails weren't brutal, just rolling paths through the woods, nothing wild, we figured. Wyatt and I goofed around, tossing a frisbee while the group unpacked. Elise caught my eye once, gave me a half smile as she adjusted her pack. "You boys keeping up?" she called. Voice easy but with that edge of command. I grinned back, shrugged, and tried to match stride. By afternoon, we were on the trail in loose clusters, pushing farther. Sky was clear. Sunlight filtering through the trees, casting long shadows. Wyatt got stuck with a chatty coworker droning on about stock portfolios. So I ended up with Elise and this guy Marcus, a bookkeeper more glued to his phone than the scenery. Elise took point, pointing out deer tracks or wildflowers. Her tone calm but with a spark of real interest. I didn't say much. Listened, nodded when she glanced back. There was something about her out here. Total ease in the wild. Like the forest belonged to her. We'd covered a couple miles when the clouds rolled in, heavy and gray. Air turned thick, damp, like a storm brewing. Elise checked her watch, frowned. "We should turn back soon," she said. "Rain's coming." Marcus griped about his new boots getting muddy, but I didn't mind. A little adventure sounded good, make for a solid story. No clue it'd turn into real drama. Rain hit faster than we thought. Started as a drizzle barely wetting my hoodie. Then a downpour, sheet slamming the forest floor. Trail turned to muck underfoot. Trees offering slim cover. Elise, Marcus and I stuck together but the rest scattered, voices lost in the roar. My phone had no signal. Marcus muttered about his soaked jacket. But Elise stayed sharp, eyes on the path ahead. "We need to climb higher," she said, voice steady over the noise. "This low trail flood." We slogged on, mud sucking at our boots. Elise led. Ponytail plastered to her neck, jacket clinging tight. Couldn't stop noticing her calm, those deliberate moves. Like she'd handled worse than a squall. Marcus limped behind, fiddling with his useless phone. I stayed close to Elise, part 'cause she seemed to know the play, part 'cause I didn't want to get lost out here. Air smelled of wet pine sap and soil. Sharp and heavy. Thunder rumbled distant, low and ominous. We hit a rock outcrop, a jumble of boulders offering some shelter. Elise stopped to check her map, but the paper was half drowned, ink smudged. "Camp's not far," she said, squinting into the rain. "Maybe a mile if we cut across." She moved again, skirting a loose pile of stones. Then it happened. A sharp cry ripped from her throat, raw, sudden. I spun just as she stumbled, clutching her calf. Her face twisted in pain. "Elise!" I yelled, rushing over. She was already sinking, one hand on a tree root. "Snake," she gasped, nodding at a flash of black and yellow vanishing into the brush. My gut twisted. Maybe a rattler, not sure. But the shake in her hand said it all. Blood seeped through her cargo pants, high on the calf, a dark stain spreading fast. Marcus froze, eyes bugging out, useless. Oh God, what do we do? He stammered, backing off like he might bolt. I ignored him, dropped to my knees beside her. Her breathing was quick, shallow, skin pale under the downpour. Nolan, she said, voice tight but controlled. Listen, it's venomous. We gotta move fast. Her eyes locked on mine, steady despite the hurt. I saw the effort it took to stay even. Jaw clenched, sweat mixing with rain on her forehead. You know snakebite protocol? She asked. I shook my head, heart pounding. Bits from a first aid class, nothing like this. My hands hovered, useless. She grabbed my wrist, grip iron. The venom needs sucking out. Now, before it spreads. I stared, words hitting like a gut punch. Suck it out. Mouth went dry, but her hold tightened. Nolan, I trust you, you got this. Don't think, just do it. Her voice pushed through my panic. I nodded, swallowed hard. Okay. Okay, tell me how. She leaned against the tree, grimaced, ripped the fabric at the bite. Get your mouth on the wound. Suck hard, spit it out, don't swallow. Venom's harmless in the stomach, but play it safe. I fumbled at her pants, fingers clumsy with adrenaline. Fabric tore with a wet rip, exposing the damage. 2 angry punctures, red and swelling, high on her calf, just below the hem of her shorts. Blood trickled over her skin, mixing with mud. I looked up, hesitated a split second. Her eyes met mine, no judgment, just waiting. Do it, she murmured. I drew a deep breath, leaned in, pressed my lips to the wound. Taste was bitter, metallic, warm. I sucked hard, drawing venom and blood into my mouth, spat it to the ground. Again. My hands gripped her calf to steady her, muscles twitching under my fingers. Good, she rasped. Keep going. Stay with it. Her hand settled on my shoulder, light but firm. I felt her tremble, but it didn't crack her voice. My pulse thundered, rain soaking my back, but I kept at it. Suck. Spit, praying I had it right. You're doing great, Nolan, she said, soft, her breath hitching. Don't stop. I glanced up once, her lids half closed. Pain etched deep in her face. Elise, stay with me, I said, voice rougher than I meant. You hear me? She nodded faintly, ghost of a smile. I hear you. I'm not going anywhere. Her words were a lifeline, yanking me from the fear. Marcus paced somewhere, mumbling about calling for help, but he was dead weight. It was just us, the rain, that damn bite. I pushed until the wound looked less puffy, bleeding slowed. My mouth tasted of copper. Hands slipped, slick with her blood and rain. Nuff, you think? I asked, voice shaking. She drew a ragged breath, nodded. You did it. Bought me time. But she couldn't walk. Calf was weak, face a shen storm unrelenting. I scanned around. No camp in sight, no signal, no one close. Venom was stalled, but she needed real help, fast. I wiped rain from my hair. We gotta move, find cover. She nodded, clung to my arm. Ridge ahead, maybe a cave or overhang. Her voice faded, but eyes stayed alert, trusting me. I had no idea how we'd pull it off, but I wouldn't let her down. Rain didn't quit. It lashed the woods, turning ground to slick slop of mud and leaves. Air hung heavy, cold, biting through my drenched hoodie. Elise leaned on me, weight heavier now, steps wobbly. Venom working even if I'd pulled some out. Face pale, lips pressed tight, but eyes held that stubborn fire I'd spotted at trailhead. I half carried her, arm around her waist, hers over my shoulder. Needed shelter, a spot to ride out the gale till rescue hit. If it did. That way, she murmured, pointing to a faint rocky rise in the sheets. Voice weak but sure, like she was still leading. I squinted, spotted a shallow overhang in the stone. No real cave, but enough to hunker. Got it, I said, tightening my hold. Ground was treacherous, roots and rocks hidden in the muck. Every step a gamble, but I didn't drop her. Marcus was gone. Probably off for the group or just split. Didn't matter. Down to us. We made the overhang. Narrow rock niche, deep enough to sit. I eased Elise down, back to the stone, injured legs stretched out. Wound looked steadier, red but not worsening. She shivered, torn wet cargo's jacket no match for the chill. I yanked the emergency blanket from my pack, a thin foil sheet, and draped it over us. Tying one end to a branch to block wind. Not much but better than zilch. Air smelled of damp rock and fur, raw and biting. Thunder rolled again, closer, shaking the earth. You okay? I asked, crouching beside her. My voice echoed louder than I figured in the hush under the ledge. She nodded but teeth chattered. Cold? I asked. And beat? She whispered. Eyes met mine. Softer than I'd ever seen. Not the iron-willed ex-nurse running the hike like ops. Just a woman hurting, fighting to stay sharp. Didn't know venom deep, but knew to keep her awake. Talk to me, I said, settling next to her. No dozzing, alright. She gave a faint smile, like she knew the drill. Bossy when you're scared, she teased, voice light despite it all. I chuckled. Even now. Yeah, well, I'm not the one snake bit. She chuckled too, then winced, hand brushing her calf. Point to you. Blanket flapped in a gust, letting cold slice through. I shifted closer, shoulders touching to seal the gap. Gotta stay warm, I said, hesitant. That cool? She eyed me, searching a beat. Nolan, I'm not freezing from pride. She leaned into me, head on my chest. I wrapped my arm around her, pulled her in, her shaking frame against mine. Wasn't romantic, not then, pure survival. Her warmth blended with mine, breath evening out as we sat. Rain hammering outside. Pulse still raced from the bite, the terror, but holding her grounded me. Tell me something, she said after a bit, voice barely cutting the downpour. Anything. Keep me up. I swallowed, brain scrambled. Sure. Kid me wanted to be a pilot, soaring planes, seeing the world. She tilted her head slight, looked up. What stopped you? I shrugged. Feeling her weight. Life, I guess, landed in code instead, safer, less sky. She laughed soft like a small win. You'd have made a solid pilot, she said. Cool under fire. I met her gaze. Surprised. You sure? I'm freaking here. Her eyes held mine, firm through the ache. You're here. That's enough. Her words landed heavier than they should, digging in deep. Didn't know what to say, so I just tightened my arm. Your turn, I said. Something about you. She paused, breath warm on my neck. After the divorce, she started low. Figured I'd never trust anyone again. Not like that. I'd spent years building walls, keeping folks at arm's length, even Wyatt sometimes. She trailed off, fingers twisting her sleeve. But tonight, no fear. Not with you here. Throat tightened, no clue what to make of it. Her words, that trust. She wasn't just Wyatt's mom anymore. She was Elise, raw, real, fighting for life under this rock with me. So we're stuck, just us, I said, trying to lighten it. She smiled faint, genuine, good company for stuck. Rain dragged on. Night deepened, chill sharpening. My phone was toast. No bars anyway. Steady, but slow. Stay with me, Elise, I said, voice solid. We got this. She nodded, hand finding mine, squeezing weak. I know. Hours blurred, storm merciless. I kept talking, dumb code gigs, old camp tales, whatever. To hold her alert, she listened, chimed in sometimes, nodded others, head heavy on my chest. Cold seeped into my bones, but I didn't budge. Didn't let go. Her breath even, hand in mine. Alone, cut off from everything, but right then, we were all that mattered. Dawn lurked somewhere, with it a shot. I just had to keep her warm. Hold on till it broke. Dawn crept in slow, rain easing to mist as gray light seeped through the trees. My arms ached from cradling Elise all night, her body pressed to mine under the flimsy foil. Cold had burrowed deep, fingers numb, hoodie still sodden. Her breathing held, shallower than I'd like, but there, hand loose in mine. I'd tied my red bandana to a branch over the ledge in the dark. Best I could do. Wait and pray. Elise stirred, eyes fluttering. Nolan. Voice hoarse, faint, but alive, relief crashed over me. Right here. I said, shifting to catch her look. You still with me? I half-asked. She smiled thin. Told you, not going anywhere. Fingers squeezed mine brief. Tiny thing worth a fortune. I checked her calf. Red, but holding, no worse. Venom hadn't surged thanks to the suck out, but she needed a hospital. I scanned the haze. No sign yet. They'll find us, I said, more for me than her. She nodded, eased back to the rock. You nailed it, Nolan. Most would have lost it. Voice gentle, almost proud. I shrugged, cheeks heating despite the freeze. No choice. Couldn't leave you. Her eyes held mine a moment. Something shifted between us. Not Wyatt's mom, not the unflappable ex-nurse, just Elise, vulnerable yet fierce, trusting me in ways I hadn't earned. A distant shout cut the quiet, faint but true. I bolted up, heart slamming, scrambled onto a boulder, peering through the fog. Flashlights flickered, voices swelled. Over here! I roared. Waving arms, bandana whipping like a flag. Minutes later, rescue crew hit, park rangers, some of Elise's colleagues. Wyatt too, face ashen, eyes wild with worry. Mullen, Mom, he yelled, charging up. I stepped aside as a medic knelt by Elise, checking pulse wound. Rattler bite? I said. Sucked out what I could. Medic nodded, prepping an IV. Probably saved her life. Solid work. They moved fast, strapped her to a stretcher, eyes locking mine one last time before hauling her down trail. Thanks, she mouthed, too soft for the rest. I nodded, throat tight. Trailed the group, Wyatt at my side. He clapped my shoulder hard. Man, I owe you huge. Don't know what we'd. He trailed off, shaking his head. No words from me. Weight of the night, her blood on my hands, warmth against me, sat heavy in my chest. At the hospital, an hour's drive from the trail, ER buzzed with white coats and beeping machines. Elise stabilized, antivenom in, vitals good. Doc said venom never hit her bloodstream full thanks to the quick draw. She'd bounce back with rest. Wyatt and the crew crammed the waiting area. Relieved, swapping storm stories. I hung quiet, back to the wall, replaying the night in my head. How she'd looked at me under that rock, feel of her hand in mine. More than survival. Something had tilted, and I didn't know what to do with it. Later, when visits opened, I slipped into her room. She sat up in bed, IV in arm, hair loose, face still pale but brighter. Wyatt had stepped out for coffee, leaving us alone. Didn't have to stick around, she said, voice stronger, quick smile playing. I shrugged, dropped into the chair beside her. Wanted to make sure you're good. She studied me, eyes tracing like seeing me fresh. You did more than that, Nolan. Stayed when most would have run for help. Left me with that clown Marcus. I dropped my gaze. Hands still flecked with trail dirt. Didn't feel right leaving you. Voice came out lower than planned. She reached out. Fingers grazing mine, light but deliberate. I know, and that means more than you get. Her touch lingered, warm, sure, sending a jolt through me. I didn't pull away, but Wyatt's shadow loomed in my mind. She was his mom. Couldn't cross that line. Could I? She drew back, snapping the beat. Get some rest, she said, tone softer, careful. You earned it. I nodded. Rose, but her words hung thick and open. Leaving the room, I glanced back. She watched, expression unreadable. Hospital fluorescents hummed overhead. But all I heard was her whisper from the night, saying no fear, 'cause I was there. Life tried sliding back to normal after. Back in my apartment, hunched over the laptop, debugging a picky client's code. Seattle streets hummed outside my window. City churned on like nothing happened. But I couldn't shake it. The press of that night in the woods, her hand in mine. Steady voice fighting to stay awake. Wasn't just the bite or rain, it was her. The way she'd seen me, like more than Wyatt's buddy. Wyatt hadn't dwelled much. Thanked me a dozen times, back slaps. Even bought a beer, called me a hero. I brushed it off, said it was nothing. But I held back the full tale. Not how I'd held her under that ledge, not how her words landed. Felt like betrayal, to him or me. So I zipped it, sank into routine, acted like just another weekend jaunt. Then one afternoon, phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I opened it. Breath catching. Max misses you. He's moping in the yard. If you've got time, you know the spot. Elise. Max was her dog, a shaggy golden retriever I'd met a few times at Wyatt's. I stared, reread. Simple words but loaded. No need to spell it out. I knew the invite. Didn't stop at the pup. Sat there, thumb hovering. Sun poured in. Warm light across the floor. Nothing like the storm that pinned us. Thought of her in that hospital bed, fingers brushing mine, voice saying no fear, 'cause I was there. I typed Max has taste. Be there around 5. Sent before overthinking kicked in, pulse racing, pulling up to her place, a cozy duplex in a quiet Seattle suburb. Air smelled of cut grass and fading summer. Elise stood on the porch, tossing a tennis ball for Max, who bounded across the lawn. Jeans and loose sweater, hair down, softer than I'd ever seen. Hey, she called, smiling as I climbed out. Not the crisp trail grin, but warmer, unguarded. Didn't figure you'd show. Couldn't let Max down, I said, grinning while he barreled over, tail wagging wild. I scratched his ears, glanced her way. You look solid. She laughed, deep and easy. Thanks to you. We wandered to the nearby park, Max leading, silence between us comfy but charged. Sky clear, golden light slanting through the trees. Wanted to ask about the text. What it meant, but words stuck. She broke it first, lobbing the ball. You didn't have to stay, you know, she said, quiet. Most would have bolted for help. Left me with that fool Marcus. I shrugged, towed a pebble. Didn't feel right ditching you. She stopped, turned to me. Eyes steady, probing. That's what I keep circling back to. You stayed when splitting would have been simpler. Throat closed up. I looked at her. Really looked. Saw fresh layers. Not just Wyatt's mom. Not the woman I'd pulled through. But someone who'd leaned on me when it counted. Some things are worth sticking for, I said, words slipping out unbidden. Her lips curved, not full smile, but close. Some things, yeah. We didn't say more. Didn't need to. We headed back, Max panting, happy between us. At goodbye, her hand touched my arm. Light, but meant. Drop by any time, Nolan. Max isn't the only one who likes it. I nodded, chest warm, drove home under a sky too clear to feel real. Whatever this was, it wasn't done. Not yet. In the unpredictable wilderness of life, where familiar trails can suddenly erupt into merciless storms, an unexpected crisis can unveil the deepest truths of our humanity. Picture Nolan, a young man caught in a torrent of fear and rain in the Cascade Mountains, facing Elise, the mother of his best friend, paralyzed by a venomous snakebite. It's not just a physical emergency that binds them, but a primal call to action, to absolute trust in another soul. With trembling hands, Nolan draws the poison from her wound, not from expertise, but from an instinctive drive to protect. In that raw gesture lies an eternal lesson: vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the bridge to genuine connection. How often do we hide behind walls of conventions, social fears, the lines we don't cross, to avoid chaos? Yet it's in the chaos where true strength emerges. Elise, the steely ex-army nurse, opens up to Nolan not as an untouchable figure, but as a flawed, whole woman, whispering, I have no fear because you're here. Those words, murmured under a makeshift shelter, echo in our hearts. Life's most precious bonds aren't forged in the comfort of routines but in shared trials. They remind us that behind every family friend lurks a potential savior, and behind every savior, a soul thirsting for trust. Isn't that the essence of existence? To embrace another's bite, metaphorically, our doubts are silent moments, and let life flow pure and revitalizing once more. This tale isn't mere adventure, it's a mirror for our souls, inviting us to welcome the unforeseen, to transform fear into unbreakable loyalty. And you, dear friends, what life bite has taught you to trust? Share in the comments your revelation moments, those instances where a simple act changed everything. Subscribe to the channel for more soul-stirring stories that awaken the heart. Together, we explore humanity's hidden paths. Your voice matters, your sub lights the way. See you soon, etched in the winds of the Cascades.